The following program paid for by Rosenberg Financial Group. Providing live finance advice since 1993. It's time for Your Money with Steve Rosenberg, Sherri Goss, Randy Goss, and Becca Wilton. To participate in today's program, call 478-742-0940 with your financial questions and comments. And now, live from the Macon studios of News Talk 940 WMAC, it's Your Money.
Good morning, Middle Georgia. Becca Wilton and Sherri Goss are here to take your phone calls. 478. What? I don't know.
742-0940.
My binder got a big thing of coffee dumped all over it this morning. I was trying to carry too many things at once, and my coffee spilled all over everything.
Oh, no. And
so all my stuff is stained, and it's a big mess. So I had to throw my little binder away that had my number in it. So you're going to have to help me at the 30 minutes. Remember, because I have a phone number written in that binder. So anyways, happy Father's Day weekend. So what are you guys doing for Father's Day? You guys do anything special?
I think we're going to the Perry Gun Show.
Oh.
Out at the fairgrounds.
Oh, that's fun. Is he going to get a new gun?
I don't know. They're probably really overpriced there.
I would think.
But it's just fun to look. And then some of the people that are there, it's really interesting to see the gun enthusiasts. There's a wide range of people that go to those places.
I used to have a T-shirt that back when I was shooting and we were going to the gun range. Is that,
He's got
is
a
that
phone
your
call.
phone? Can you turn the volume off? There you go.
CT's really important this morning.
But anyways, I used to have this gun control means hitting your target. And I used to wear that shirt around, and people would get so offended by it, I had to give it away to Goodwill. But anyways, I used to shoot. We used to go to the range and shoot on Friday nights just for a stress reliever. It was actually really fun. And we haven't done that for a long time.
We used to do it more, but now ammo is so expensive that you it's like really expensive Friday night entertainment now.
Right. Yeah. Well, anyways, this week I got to do 2 life book presentations, and they were both really great. One was for a group of realtors, and one was for a group of people that are going through the loss of a spouse. That was Wednesday or Thursday night. I can't remember. The week was a blur. But anyway, so I learned a couple of things. First of all, I found out that the funeral home that sponsored the grief support group did not know anything about the Fema funeral reimbursement program.
That's crazy. I guess we need to talk about it more, and they need to listen to our show.
So people need to spread the word. So if all the way back into 2020, if somebody died and COVID is on the death certificate as a primary cause of death or a secondary cause of death, FEMA can reimburse possibly, I'm not saying a blanket because it depends on who paid for it and how that money went and all that. FEMA can reimburse the cost of the funeral to the person that paid for it. And so, for example, you have people who the whole family doesn't have any money, nobody's done any pre-planning, so the person that has money ends up spending their cash to pay for the funeral. And we have a friend who we just went through this, but COVID was not on her death certificate, so he can't get a reimbursement. But you need to, we have 2 clients who have COVID as the cause of death. And so I followed up with both these people, and I sent them the article. If you need the article, email me, Sherri, Sherri, at rfmoney.com, and I can send you the FEMA article about who can get reimbursed for funeral expenses. The second thing that came up in this thing that I did the other night at the funeral home for the people who had lost their spouses, 2 of the men said when their wife died, they pulled out the deed on their house, and it turns out the deed was just his name and her name without joint tenant with right of survivorship.
You wonder if it was done through a bank or how long ago, if it was like a long time ago maybe. It just seems
really odd. It was a while back, like 2001. They bought their house in 2001 or so, and both of them had the same problem. And here's the big deal. Thank God they had a will, because that half of the house passed by the will to them. Otherwise, it would have passed by state law. So in the state of Georgia, the spouse, if there's no will, the spouse gets a third of the estate. And any living children get the remaining 2/3 divided between them. So if they didn't have a will, that property would not have transferred to their name. And I've never even heard of this. I didn't even know this was possible. But they just had this happen in the last year, both of them. And they were both shocked out of their minds. But then you were going to say something about having the estate. You had somebody who had the estate as beneficiary.
Yeah, so I had a client. She had 2 different accounts, and on one she had her 2 children listed as the beneficiaries, and one had passed away, and so the sister had to come in, or the daughter, I guess. She came in with the death certificate for her mom and the death certificate for her brother, proving that he wasn't alive either. So that one was fairly straightforward. The other account, and I don't even know if it must have been a default option or something with this funds company, but it was the family estate or something that showed up as the beneficiary. And so she had to go through all this to prove that no one else in her family was alive, that her dad had passed away, that, the mom, the brother, there was no other siblings that could claim it. But
how did she prove all that with death certificates? She had to send all this stuff in there. I mean, what a nightmare.
Yeah, and it really turned into a big ordeal just trying to prove who is eligible or who's supposed to be claiming against the estate. And so that's the thing, you just never know the situation, and as time goes by, people move, people pass away, things get harder to track down. And so luckily she had the paperwork she needed, but it took a lot longer on that other account to get things straightened out. So the estate is never a good option.
No, because then it has to go into an estate account, and money should not pass that way. Everything should go directly to the people, and that's what I told the folks, the realtors that I talked to. I said every chunk of money should go directly to whoever it's supposed to go to. You can add, if you have a brokerage account that's not a retirement account, that you need to have a transfer on death form. We do this for every client. I don't want anything passing by the will. And then if you have a bank account with a lot of money in it, you can add a pay on death. Just ask the bank. Say, can I get a pay on death form? And you list beneficiaries, and it goes right to those people when you pass away. Instead of having to go into the estate account and then somebody has to distribute. I mean, a lot of times there's no need for an estate account because everything can pass where it's supposed to. I mean, you want it easy for the people that you leave behind.
Right. I found most of my clients have everything in investment accounts, bank accounts, and, then maybe the house. But like you said, when it can all pass through, it's by contract because there's names listed. It doesn't have to go through probate. Like Sherri said, you don't have to put it in estate accounts and dole it out and split it out. You just, whoever's paid on the beneficiary, that's who the money goes to.
Yes. And then the last thing that came up in the meeting with the folks at the bereavement group that had lost their spouse was a credit freeze for the deceased. This is important that you freeze their credit. You can go to one credit bureau. You can send in the death certificate. They can shut it down, and then that credit bureau notifies the other 2, so all 3 of them shut down the credit because you don't want a scammer using that deceased person's credit to get credit that they should never get. Just saying. Anyways, they're a really good program. So if you're interested in us coming and doing a program, there's a lot of things we can do. We can come to your company, come to your association, your church group, whatever it is. If you're starting back meetings again and you want a good speaker, Becca or myself can come out and we can talk about the market, the economy. We can talk about the life book. We can talk about financial planning, which Becca does. We can talk about all sorts of things and be great speakers for your organization, and we don't charge a dime.
Another thing with, like you were talking about the paperwork that those gentlemen had with their houses, coming to meet with Sherri or I just for a consultation, bring all your paperwork. I mean, it can be a pain, but we'll be happy to go through it with you and look at your beneficiaries to make sure they're listed correctly. People go through divorces, people lose family members. I think someone was talking about how the number one person that a young man puts down is their mom.
Their mom.
And then they could either be passed away or, they've been married now and they could have kids. So you want to make sure you're updating those beneficiaries. And then any other forms you have, power of attorneys, they get outdated. And then, like she said, with the mortgage, bring in your deed and paperwork, and we can look at that and make sure it's titled correctly.
Bring in the cardboard box. It's going to be a big pile. And then I would suggest after the cardboard box has gone through that you go buy a fireproof safe and you take all your important documents and you put them in a place. And I asked the realtors this question. I said, if you had to get out of your house, let's say we got this stupid storm coming this weekend, which I think is going to be a nothing, but everybody makes it into like, oh my gosh, the world's coming to an end because there's a storm coming. Storms come through all the time. But let's say we really did have a serious storm and you were told to get out of your house because it was going to be dangerous. How fast could you get all of your important documents together in one place and get out the door? I doubt very many people could. You need your homeowner's insurance policy, your life insurance, your health insurance, your car insurance, your deeds, your everything, all of that stuff, your will, your power of attorney, all of that important stuff. Where is that stuff? And does it in some place? So we have a fireproof safe with a handle on it, and everything is in there. And all I have to do is literally grab that and hit the door. And on top of that, I have everything scanned into a encrypted thumb drive that I keep in my purse, which is with me all the time, so I could always go in there and I could download anything if I wanted it, if I had to. I don't even have to have the safe full of stuff, but our passports are in there, so I would, and Social Security cards and all that. I would want all that. So maybe it's a crummy, stormy weekend. Why don't you go to Walmart and spend $25 on a portable fireproof safe and get all your junk in one place so that I can stop worrying about you?
Because most people have it in cardboard boxes and a filing cabinet. It's all in one place. It's in a filing cabinet. Well, are you going to go through and pull out every single folder that you need? Are you going to remember what you need? No. You need to have it together in one spot.
Yeah, I agree.
It's easy to grab. You can't grab your filing cabinet and stick it in the car.
Right. Yeah. Well, you may not even be able to drive your car. You might be walking up the street like they were out of Florida the last time that giant storm when everybody lost their house and their car and everything, and they're all walking up the street with a cell phone and a pet. That's all they had, with no charger. And there was nowhere to charge your phone. Anyways, enough about that. So the Dow was down this week. And the whole news, because the news has to be negative to get your eyeballs to look at it. So the headline is Dow falls 400 points, on track for the worst week since January. So the stocks dropped after the Fed official James Bullard said he expects the first rate increase in late 2022. The Fed is purchasing $120 billion a month of treasuries and mortgage bonds since they've been started this since June of 2020 to hold down interest rates. And the Dow, you have to realize, the Dow is only 30 stocks. The Dow is not the entire market, and it's very heavy in tech. And so when you have things happen and there are market pullbacks or sector pullbacks, the Dow is going to fluctuate huge because the valuation is large. So 400 points. Compared to the size of the Dow, the valuation is not much, but it sounds big. And
1.2%.
Yeah. And so it sounds really huge, and it gets your attention. You're like, oh, my gosh, what's happening now? So the stocks were down again Friday. What's worst weekly performance since the end of January. Anyways.
The article had started saying that, initially the policymakers signaled Wednesday that they expect to raise interest rates by late 2023.
Right.
So more than 2 years away.
Right.
And they're like, everybody's freaking out. And then they say, okay, well, it'll be like a year and a half. So it's still amazing how people react to that, something that may happen in a year and a half down the road.
Right. Don't
overreact.
The Fed has faced more inflation than it expected, and policymakers need to be nimbly at it, but it will take several Fed meetings to organize a debate over tapering its bond purchase program. And we've done this before. So back in 2008, they bought huge amounts of treasuries to keep interest rates low to stimulate the economy. And what's driving me crazy, this article even talks about the VIX. The CBOE Volatility Index, which is the VIX, which you can go to Yahoo Finance and you can see it. It's at 20.7 today. I looked it up this morning. It was 80 in April of 2020. April of 2020 was extremely volatile because of COVID. We have come a long way from that, and 20 of the VIX is not extremely high. I mean, 14 is kind of normal. So it's you have to just keep things in perspective. So they said they expect inflation to creep higher in the near term due to supply chain bottlenecks, chip shortages, strong demand for goods and services, and easing pandemic restrictions. Stocks are still likely to advance. The Fed hasn't done anything yet. All they've done is signal, and they're a long way off from doing anything. So understand, okay, so we have the chip shortage. We've already talked about that. So car prices are high. Used car prices are high. You go to the store to buy anything. I mean, I went shopping to buy a pair of white capri pants. Guess how hard that is right now. There isn't one pair in Macon, Georgia. Wow. I have been from Walmart to Dillard's, and I even went to I can't remember what store I was in, and I was so disgusted. I said, there's nothing. There is nothing. I think I was at Walmart, and the girl even said, yeah, there's nothing. She goes, we have nothing, because the supply chain is so short, because everybody got out and started shopping again and spending all this money that they had, because they hadn't been shopping for so long. Everything that you want is gone. It's just kind of crazy. It's all over the place. But anyways, so just be patient. It's going to be fine. They will unwind all of this debt that they're buying, which is what they did back in 2009, 2010. They buy all these treasuries and from themselves, and they create all this income, and they keep the rates low, and then they'll turn around when they finally realize the recovery is actually here and unemployment is completely irrational. The numbers are not even correct. Then they'll start unwinding it, and it will be fine. I don't see a crisis in any direction. Do you?
Not really, not now. Maybe, next year sometime things might change, but I mean, we're getting people back out there. People are buying things.
Schools are reopening in the fall,
Yeah.
so everybody's going to be out buying all these school clothes they weren't able to buy. Think of that. They didn't have to buy school clothes last year if the schools were closed. They probably just wore the same clothes they already had.
All the poor kids have like the really high water pants now because they outgrew their clothes.
Oh
I was at Walmart earlier this week, and they already had the notebooks out and the notebook
I'm
paper
sure.
and all that stuff. So
I'm sure
I was
everybody's-
like, wait, what is this, June, and we're already getting school supplies?
See, I thought we were supposed to have winter clothes by now. I guess I'm ahead of the curve. I guess it's still back to school shopping for June, and then after June, I don't know when they start putting winter clothes out, but there's a lot of clothes that are going to be going to TJ Maxx and Marshalls and all that people have not bought. And I've been there too, and they don't have any capri pants. All righty. So anything else about inflation that you want to talk about?
We had that other article. I found it interesting. It was talking about the officials raised their GDP expectations for the year from 7% to 7% from 6.5%, and the unemployment estimate remained unchanged at 4.5%. It said the statement tempered some of the language of the previous statements since the COVID-19 crisis. Since last year, the FOMC has said that the pandemic is causing tremendous human and economic hardship across the United States and around the world. But then you turn around and you say, okay, well, everybody's had their vaccines, the numbers are going down, the indicators of the economic activities up, employment strengthened, and so it's really kind of, again, like you said, with the media saying, oh, everything's horrible, but everything is on the rise and everything is doing better. So,
And I have a lot of clients that didn't get the vaccine, and they're just fine. They never got sick, they never got the vaccine, and they're fine. And they're like, where's the flu? Where happened to the flu? We never had flu last year, so what was that about? I mean, it's just, people are very skeptical about this stuff.
It also said that recent indicators show that in some respects, the U.S. is expanding at the fastest rate since World War II. So things are looking up. People need to look for the positive. You can find whatever you look for. If you look for the negative or the positive, you'll find it.
That is a really, really good point. So this is very interesting. So lumber prices are falling. So futures for July delivery ended Tuesday at $1,009 per 1,000 board feet, down 41% from May.
That's crazy.
Is that crazy? Cash lumber prices are also crashing. Economists and investors have wondered if sky-high prices for wood products would doom the booming housing market because everybody wants the doom message. Lumber became central to the inflation debate, whether a period of runaway inflation was afoot or high prices were temporary shocks that would ease the economy as the economy moved forward from the lockdown. The rapid decline suggests a bubble that has burst, and the question is how low lumber prices will fall. Even after tumbling, lumber futures remain nearly 3 times what is typical for this time of year. So during the run-up, wood was hoarded by builders, retailers, and others who are worried about running out of material during a construction season, set into overdrive by low mortgage rates and federal stimulus payments. So this is like toilet paper.
I was thinking the same thing. This is the toilet paper.
It's the new toilet paper is the wood. And so then now the market is being flooded by what's called shadow inventory as businesses that are normally big buyers, such as home builders and companies that prefabricate the trusses that hold up roofs and floors, sell from their own stockpiles. So this is like hand sanitizer.
Oh, all those people that had garages full of hand sanitizer. And
I have a gallon. Hey, if you want a gallon of hand sanitizer, I'll sell it to you for $20. We have a gallon at the office. I have a gallon in my house. I have a gallon at the lake. I mean, it was like if you could get it, you bought a gallon of it because you're thinking, oh, we're going to use it. And then we have some at the office, and nobody ever used it. Nobody wanted to because it dries your hands out so bad. So, yeah, I will even donate it to you if you want a gallon of hand sanitizer. Mortgage finance firm Freddie Mac estimates in April the U.S. is about 3.8 million houses shy of meeting demand. Is that amazing?
And it says it's largely to the lack of construction following 2008 housing crash. I found that really interesting.
Yeah, me too.
12 or 13 years later, we're 3.8 million houses shy of meeting demand. That just seems crazy.
I guess they didn't expect millennials to buy houses. The 3 Canadian firms that have become the biggest sawyers in the Southern Pinelands have priced in expectations of $447 lumber next year, and that would be a little more expensive than normal, but more in line. So wood prices are coming down. So the problem is, if you've already locked in your contract for building a house at current prices, they're not going to go back on that. They're not going to dial it back and say, oh, prices are dropping, so we're going to charge you less. You're locked into whatever you locked in for. So that's the unfortunate thing, that you're going to end up overpaying for the house, and it's going to be you're going to pay more than it's going to actually end up being worth, is my fear.
And the hard part is the builders didn't know what to do, because everything was such...
They had to protect themselves because they can't get gouged. So what are you going to do? I mean, it's just it's a really tough thing.
And it even said a lot of builders just stopped building because they didn't know what to do. They didn't know how to price things, and they didn't want to, they were afraid they couldn't sell it if it was too high, but they didn't want to lose money on every property they were building.
I wonder whatever happened with the tiny home craze.
Oh, yeah. They used to have a show about it and everything.
Yeah. I had one client that was looking at it, and I talked him out of it because I said, you're going to be miserable.
You would love a tiny home, wouldn't you?
No.
No, but you're such a minimalist. You wouldn't have all
my
stuff.
God. I feel like I was trapped. I'd rather be in a bunker. I mean, you're like, this thing is so small. You have about 3 feet wide to even walk through. I mean, you have 3 feet of clearance between the range and the cabinets, and you have about 7 feet of distance that you can walk, and then you have to climb upstairs to get to your bed.
And usually the beds only have 3 or 4 feet of clearance, so you can't even stand up. You have to crawl into bed, like army crawl into bed.
Yeah, it'd be like being in jail. I could not do a confined space. I couldn't do a motorhome. I couldn't do a tent long term. I couldn't.
It's kind of living in a storage unit.
Yeah, with windows. Yes.
I mean, a nicely decorated storage unit.
Now, if I could take a couple of containers, those ship containers, and if I could attach 2 of those together on a foundation and cut holes for windows, I could live in that. That would be
bigger.
Big enough.
They would be.
Yeah, I could handle that. But the tiny home, mm-mm.
So I've got a couple text messages from our listeners.
Yay!
And one said that they went to Aldi's last week and bought a safe. So they're at Aldi's as well.
Oh, my gosh.
But they haven't taken it out of the box yet. So they need to, this weekend, if there's a storm coming in their area.
Yeah, you're bored and stuck at home.
Yes.
It's a great weekend to do this.
Clean out, take your important documents and put it in that safe. And the other thing is, this is in Illinois, but she has found white capri pants at her Kohl's.
What? I went to Kohl's. They have none. They have 0. Maybe I should call her and have her go to Kohl's and she can ship me. I should probably go to Kohl's online then.
Yeah, because Illinois, maybe they aren't wearing capri pants as much as
because it's colder.
Although they were up in the high 90s all week.
Wow.
It was very unusual.
That's crazy. It's just weird what you can't buy. So my favorite coffee creamer actually went out. It was totally gone during COVID. And so I'm afraid I'm that person that when I saw it on the shelf, I bought like 6 bottles of it. Because I'm part of the problem, because I love that creamer in my coffee in the morning. So Does
it expire? Do you have to worry about that, or
like
do you drink
year?
It? Oh, okay. You'll drink it.
It's actually shelf stable. You can actually leave it on a shelf and not refrigerate it.
Oh, well, that's cool.
So they had it on sale at. This is terrible. I went to Kroger last week. They had that clearance thing where they have all that stuff that's on discounted. They had 12, and I bought all of them.
Well, they were discounted, so no one else is probably buying them.
They're good until 2022. So I went to the lady. I said, I'm kind of embarrassed about this. I was doing my self-checkout. I said, because I took all of them. And she's like, hey, it's a deal. Go for it. She goes, that's what I do. She works there.
They're clearancing them out, so they wanted them to be gone. So you helped them clear their shelves.
Anywho, it's almost at the 30 mark.
All right.
You want to tell everybody who we are and what we do?
Yes, we are Rosenberg Financial Group, and we love to help people with your finances, investing, financial planning, and just chatting and helping you plan for the future. Give us a call at 478-922-8100 in our office, and you can schedule complimentary visits with Sherri and I or Steve, and we'll be happy to go over any financial questions you have and point you in the right direction, hopefully, to get you headed for a successful retirement. If you have any questions today, call in at 478-742-0940.
Yay. So I had a couple in last week, and it was so fun because they've both been in their jobs 30 years plus. They're both going to have pensions. They're both going to have Social Security. They have no debt because they have bought fixer-upper houses, and they have fixed up houses like we did, lived in them, fixed them up, flipped them, made money, moved to the next place, fix it up. They have a rental property that was a fixer-upper that they are going to sell. They have another place that they're going to sell. But they have all these things going on, and they live cheap. They have a camper. They go camping if they want to go somewhere. But they have a swimming pool in their backyard, and they basically just enjoy being at home, and they get along with each other.
Oh, that's rare.
That's a big deal. To be able to be around your spouse all the time and you get along and you like the same things. But their lifestyle is very inexpensive. They do meal planning. They pack their lunches every day. They take their food to work. They eat out one day a week. They'll eat dinner out once a week, and that is their big expense. And we went through the whole deal, and I was like, holy cow, y'all are set. I mean, and they're saving money in their 401ks, which they're not even going to need. They're not going to need to spend any of it. That'll be like emergency money. So I was so excited for them, and because they just wanted someone to take a look at their picture of where they are, and they have done all the right things. And it was just phenomenal. And the real game changer is they never had kids.
Oh, that's a big thing.
That's a big deal. They saved a pile of money. I mean, think about it. If you never had kids, how much more money would you have?
Don't they say, like, over the course of their lifetime, it's like $1 million or something that you spend on all their food and education and
clothing and stuff
all
and
the stuff they break.
Cars and driver's licenses and life insurance. I mean, I can't even imagine how much we spent. But and our kids are independent; they're on their own. It's all good. But if we had never had any, that would have been a game changer. I mean, these people, they didn't have kids, and so it's just been the two of them, and they get along, and everything's fine, and they're going to be set for life with their pensions and Social Security.
The weird thing is, though, then how those people that don't have the kids decide who to leave their money to. And, you know, some of them go totally with the charities, and then there's those lucky niece and nephews that show up that get some money, or maybe their siblings. But
right. That is the problem. That is an issue.
But I had a gentleman in this yesterday, and we went over his financial plan. And like you said, it was just neat to see everything that he had worked for, and he's right on the edge of retirement. He's like, I think I'm going to retire in January. And so I went through the whole plan. He's like, okay, do we have time? Can we do one more scenario? He's like, what if I quit on Monday?
What?
And so
was he serious?
He was. And he told his wife before he came in, he said, I just want to be able to walk out any day. When I get mad, I just want to be done. And she's like, you know, she got real worried about it. He's like, well, I'm going to go talk to Becca today.
Good.
And she's going to tell me or not. And we ran some numbers, and I don't think the 6 months difference between if he leaves now or stays till January. And so knowing him, I think he'll probably stay till January. But the mindset to know that if he gets frustrated enough, he can walk out. You know, he's already 66, and so he's worked a long time. He's, you know, like you said, done a lot of made good choices with savings, and you know, it's just really neat, like you said, to work with people like that to see when they're at that point and they've got their future set. And you know, we talked so much about what are you going to do now, because that's, I find, the biggest thing is people come in and they are like, I just want to retire, and you're like, well, what are you going to do? I don't know. And so some people refuse to retire because they have nothing to do, and that's not always good. But some people just end up sitting and doing nothing, and their health goes downhill, their mental stability goes downhill. So you definitely need to come up with some plans, come up with some hobbies. But and either way, though, I think you're talking about the other couple that had everything together too. And the flip side of it, it's kind of like a puzzle. Anybody that comes in for us, I think we look at it like a puzzle. And you know, I always say you can't change anything in the past, but going forward, what can we do the best way we can do with what you have today and going forward? And so it's kind of a puzzle to see what we can do to help them, because I have some people that are in their late 50s and 60s and have less than $100,000 saved, and you know, they're starting to get kind of nervous. And so we talk about, well, what's the best thing that we can do going forward, and how can we make it the best possible. And they may have to work a little longer, but they need to, you know, step up their savings. And we talked about last week, it's never too late to start saving. And we'll get into another article later about that. There's some amazing numbers if you do start early.
Right.
But it's never too late to start saving. And come talk to us. We will help you.
And be debt-free. Debt-free is really huge. That's a big deal. All righty. So this article talks about working and when people work and when they quit work and all of this. And this guy's talking about his dad. He says, my dad just kept working and working. When people asked what my dad did, I said he was semi-retired.
Oh, we have a phone call.
Yay. Good morning. You're on with Becca and Sherri. Good morning.
Uh-oh. Did they hang up?
Nobody there? Are you
We
sure?
can't hear
I didn't
you.
hear a dial tone.
You're in a tunnel.
Call back. 7420940.
There you go.
So if you're in or close to what you consider your retirement age goal and either still work by choice to stay active and engaged in the world, good on you, or by necessity to provide for yourself and your family, you're ahead of many of your peers. That's because a third group, which includes my dad, exists. I'm talking about people who are simply uncertain about their golden years. These folks know there will be expenses, but they don't know for sure where the income will come from aside from Social Security. So they do what they've always done. They keep working. Here's the thing. Simply working forever is not a sustainable retirement plan. It's not.
I love that comment. Because
Yeah.
people just like, well, I'll just keep working.
Well,
Did they call back?
Yeah. Good morning. You're on with Sherri and Becca. Hello.
Good morning to both of you. This is Robin Jackson out of Perry, Georgia.
Yes.
Well, hey, good morning.
I just want to say happy
Juneteenth, yes.
Well, this is a national holiday as of today, I guess, and so just a little history on it. Just to everyone that in the state of Texas, they didn't realize that the people was free. The slave was free during that time. It was in 1863 that Abraham Lincoln freed with the emancipation.
Hey, I got a question for you.
Yes.
So there was a statue of Abraham Lincoln reaching down to lift up a slave. This was extremely popular last year, and everybody wanted to tear it down. Can you explain to me why black people wanted to tear down a statue of Abraham Lincoln lifting up a slave?
Well, I really can't explain.
I don't
it
understand
to you,
it. It made me so mad. It's because people don't even understand what it stood for, and they ripped it down. They took it out because people were offended by it because they don't even understand history. And so yeah, we understand Juneteenth. I think everybody knows the history. I think everybody knows why it was made a national holiday. And I think it's really important for people to go back and understand history and what happened, why it happened, and that slavery is still happening all over the world. Do people even understand that? You got slave labor in China. Why isn't anybody upset about that?
And sex trafficking?
Sex trafficking, slavery all over the place. I mean, I want to celebrate the fact that our history, that we did the right thing in history, but going forward, we still are in a mess. What do you think about that?
Well, I do believe, like I said, that the day, as far as it will be a day of learning your history, and as far as the history of Juneteenth, it is, like I said, in 1863, Abraham Lincoln had, with the emancipation, had already.
I understand all of that. You're not answering my question. You're not answering my question. What about all the slavery going on in the rest of the world? Why don't we ever talk about that? That there are slaves in other countries and we don't even care. I don't get it.
Well, not that we don't care, but here in America, we try to get the cheapest labor. And
No, that's not what I'm talking about. Anyways, thanks for your call. I appreciate it. Yes, we all need to celebrate Juneteenth. I agree with you. I support it. It's great, and I'm glad they made it a holiday. Some people don't agree with it because they think it's misleading, but I agree. I agree with the whole thing, but I think we need to do more. Was there another call?
There was, but they hung up.
I
think we need to have everybody go Google it and learn about it.
Yes, please understand what it's about, what the history is. I don't even know if we teach this in school.
Probably
do we
not.
even teach any of this so people even understand what the heck even happened? So I've read so Ken Follett.
Oh,
if
we
you
got
want,
the call back.
Great. Good morning. You're on with Becca and Sherri.
Hey.
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, this is Kevin calling from Warner Robins.
Excellent. What's on your mind today?
What's on my mind is just general estate business.
Okay.
I realize that I just tuned in. I'm not sure if that's what the subject matter you're dealing with.
It's okay.
Just needed some advice as far as what kind of attorneys I should get, because I've already applied for this estate in probate.
So you're already working through the estate yourself. So you're the
Executor.
You're the executor.
I haven't become executor yet. I just filed my paperwork this month.
But you're the executor in the will.
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to let you go because there's something wrong with your connection that's loud and crazy. And so we'll go ahead and let you go and we'll talk about this. So if you're executor on someone's will, you have to file for probate, and then the probate judge makes you executor so that you can take the will and your paperwork showing that you are the executor around to the banks and the institutions to transfer everything to the rightful person based on what the will says. And the biggest deal is if there are financial accounts and they have beneficiaries, you don't have to be involved in that. You just have to go to the financial companies, give them a death certificate, and they will open accounts. And this is the part a lot of people don't understand that we don't explain very often. So let's say that this is your dad. Your dad passed away, and he had an IRA account at Merrill Lynch. So you have to take that death certificate to Merrill Lynch, to the advisor, and the advisor has to open an account at Merrill Lynch to move the IRA from whoever it was with your dad originally to the new beneficiary, which could be you. And so they have to open up the account at Merrill, and then once the account's transferred into the name of the rightful owner that was primary beneficiary, then the account can be moved anywhere. But I've had a number of people go through this year, and they're very frustrated because they're like, I just want the money to come to me. And I said, you can't. The money has to go into an account at the firm, into the name of the beneficiary. Then you can transfer it wherever you want it to go. So you just have to go through these processes, and it's just paperwork. But the biggest thing is probably property that has to transfer that you're going to have to deal with. But once you get your paperwork and showing that you are the executor, you'll be able to go out and handle all of these things and take care of this. And it's a big job, depending on how big the estate is. It can be a job that lasts a year. I've had people take a lot of time because of all the accounts and property and everything that they were having to deal with. And so it's a big deal. So whoever is your executor in your will, make sure they know that they're your executor, and make sure your stuff is organized so that when they go out and start trying to do this stuff, it's not a nightmare.
Yeah, make sure they're willing to step up to the plate and take care of that for you.
Right.
And like you said, even if it's not a huge estate, it still could have a lot of problems with it, or little, things you end up going down rabbit holes trying to figure out, and even if it's not large sums of money. I think people get confused when you go to a bank. If you're a payable on death on somebody's bank account, the bank can, with the death certificate and the correct paperwork, can just write you a check and give you that money because it's just a bank account. It's already in cash. But like Sherry's saying, people get confused that when it's an IRA, it's already tax advantaged, and so there's special rules around it, and they have to make sure they track you to make sure you pay all your taxes on it. But like she said, it's kind of a two-step process to get it transferred over. The same way we found with some custodian accounts. A lot of we have clients that have set up funds for their minor children, and then the children come of age and they don't do anything with it, and we end up tracking down these 25 and 30-year-old kids that aren't kids anymore,
right,
that have these custodial accounts. And sometimes it's a trick to get it transferred over from the company that it's with into the hands of that minor that's now not a minor. So we can be happy to help with that. We can lay out a plan for you. And I think the gentleman that called, and maybe another question was, does he need an attorney? And hopefully you won't. He should be able to take care of it. But
right,
if you need more assistance, call us or email us, Becca at rfmoney.com, or Sherri, SHERRI, at rfmoney.com. And we do have a couple of state attorneys we work with, and we could give you a name if you do need some help with that, if you can't handle the situation.
So Randy's dad passed away about 6 years ago. Randy handled the estate. Randy filed the paperwork. It cost about $125. It did not take any time whatsoever. He helped with the transition of everything to his mom, and it just was not a big deal. And we really need more education about that, about the process. We really should have somebody on. We should bring somebody on here who's an attorney who could talk about when to bring in an attorney, when to not bring in an attorney. That would be a really good show.
Yeah, that would be cool. We'll do that.
Yeah, well, let's do that, because a lot of people assume they have to have an attorney to handle all of this, and many times they do it just because they do not want to deal with it, and I totally get that, and you can spend the money and you can do that, and that's fine, but there are things that you can do yourself, and it just depends on how complicated it all is. So that would be this time. We've done this before, and it's time for us to do that again, I think.
I remember I worked for a law firm, and I hadn't been around estate attorneys really.
Mm-hmm.
And one day, it was one of the younger attorneys, so I think maybe she kind of got suckered into it, maybe, because most of the attorneys didn't do that. But she was named the executor, and so she got in the middle of the family.
No.
But we had this like front coat closet at the attorney's office, and there was like all these old lady dresses and clothes and stuff, and like she actually had to take some of the family belongings, and she was responsible for them until she could get the family together and split things up.
Oh, no.
And so I was like, I bet she never signed up for that again.
That would not be nobody, I don't know any attorney that would do that. There's no way. See, people have asked me if I would be executor for them.
Oh, I bet.
No way. Will not do it. Got to find somebody else. I mean, because you don't know what's going to come out of the woodwork. If you don't know the truth, if you don't know this person, why would you want to take that on?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a disaster.
You know, last week we talked about trust, and the gentleman I had in yesterday evening asked about a trust. He's like, and people are always like, now people tell me I should get a trust. Do you think I should I put my stuff in a trust? And we got into the discussion, and I said, I don't think in your situation that it would really be necessary. And he's like, well, my sister's just really spun up on this, and she just really thinks I need a trust. And
where does his sister live?
She lives in Florida.
Florida.
And
that's the deal.
I started explaining it. And he goes, my sister lives in Florida. I said, well, that's why. She's had it pounded in her head.
The property has to be in a trust, because the estate, what you have to pay to process, to get property out of someone's name is exorbitant down there. I've been told by attorneys here, if you have property in Florida, it needs to be in a trust, period, because you do not want to go through the hassle. And I have a client that had to go through it. It cost him $5,000 to transfer property out of his father's name to his mother. Yeah.
And we have a lot of clients that have houses in Florida. I mean, there's the Panhandle, vacation home over on the Atlantic Ocean. So we want to make sure that, they're protected if they need be. And then I have the client last night, he was thinking about selling his house and maybe moving, and he thought about maybe moving to Florida. I said, well, then if you do that, we'll need to look into that for you.
And just a tip, if you're thinking of selling your house and moving somewhere, go try the place out for a month first. Go stay there for a month and see how you really like it. Because I've had people move to the beach. I've had people move to the mountains. Oh, they visited a few times and they just loved it. And then they move there, and it's like within 2 years, they're like, I can't take it anymore. I'm coming back to Macon. I mean, they feel isolated. They're away from everyone they knew. I mean, some people do halftime in the mountains, halftime at the beach, halftime here. Some people have campers. I mean, you've got to find a balance. But just in retirement, with everything you've been doing for all these years, with the same place where you've been and all the relationships you have, just ripping yourself out of that and going to a place where you don't know anybody in retirement, where you're not working and you're home all day, I don't get that. I think that is, make sure you do your research and practice it first. Practice first.
I was going to say, I know you have an example of that, but in a bad situation, but in general, I think the practice is a big thing, like you're saying.
Go stay there for a month.
I don't love the beach that much. I wouldn't want to live at the beach.
It's hot.
6 months. It's sand. The sand gets everywhere. It's so dirty. And then if you're like at a wild beach, there's all these drunk people probably there, rowdy people, or all the kids that are screaming and throwing sand. That's not relaxing.
Yeah, you got to really, really seriously consider this kind of a big life change like that. And
then people will say, well, my family will come visit me if I'm in Florida. And so, you really want to check that out too, because they might take advantage of you, but they also might come visit once or twice. And then, like you said, you're stuck in Florida by yourself.
And you're going to have this house with all these bedrooms that you have to clean that nobody's in. Yeah. That's why we don't even have a second bedroom. And we're going to have a second bedroom in the new place we're building, but nobody ever stays with us because our kids have dogs. One's in Colorado, one's here, and they have 2 dogs, so it's like they can't just come spend the night without boarding the dogs. So it's the whole lifestyle thing has changed. I mean, how we used to do things has totally shifted. It's all different now. So just look at every angle before you make a big life shift. Make sure this is really going to be at the absolute best for you.
Especially now with real estate prices so high. Don't make any rash decisions.
Right. So, okay.
Yeah, we were on this good article.
Yeah. So where this article was going is it says, here's the thing, that simply working forever is not a sustainable retirement plan. And so then he gets into life expectancy. In 1928, U.S. life expectancy was 57 years. So my dad was born in 1923, and he lived to 92. So back in 1928, they were basing life expectancy on what was happening in 1928. They weren't basing it on everything that was going on and all of the healthcare improvements. My dad was out in the sun every day on a tractor, 6 days a week, covered in DDT, of all things, because back then they didn't know it caused cancer and stuff. He'd come in from the field covered in DDT, covered in dirt. He was breathing it because it was open. He had no cab on his tractor. So he would come in, take a shower, drink a Rainier beer, have dinner, and he lived to 92 with, I think, he had like one tiny health problem. I can't remember what it was.
He blew all those life expectancies away, didn't he?
Right? And so according to Social Security, folks turning 65 this year have an average life expectancy of 84 for men, 86 for women. So we're closing a gap. There used to be a huge gap between men and women.
I know. I read that. I was really shocked. I thought it usually seems like it was 5 or 6 years difference.
Right. 1 in 4 65-year-olds today will live past 90. 1 in 10 will live past 95. Considering most existing retirement plans assume you'll retire at 65 and live for another 20 years, this scenario is already messed up. So if you're 80, so I have a client who listened to the show. When he was 80, he became a client. We started managing his money, and he moved into a facility that has a fixed cost. And he told me, there's no way I will live to 90, and so I can start spending this money down. And I said, no, you will not spend the money down. You're going to only take out what you absolutely need, and we're going to grow this money so that it's still there. Well, he's 92. He's 92, and he came to see me recently, and he's like, I never believed you. When you told me that I would live to 90, there's no way I dreamed that would be true. And here I am. I'm 92. I go to the gym. I have a girlfriend. I love where I live.
Wow.
I drive my car. I travel. I'm in clubs and associations. I go do fun things, and I'm 92. And I'm still living the same life I had when I was 80.
Wow. It's such a mindset. I had a new client this week, and I was getting to know her, and she's 68. She'll be 69 in August. And she's like, well, I really just expected to live to 70. And
what?
I really just planned my whole life around living to 70 because my family, I smoked and I lived a little rough. And so I just expected to be 70. I said, well, I'm glad you haven't spent everything you have since you have a year left in your original time span. But I said, well, let's go ahead and plan for the next 10 years because right now you're getting around pretty good, you're doing well, and she has a really big social life. She hangs out, she does things, she travels, she's got family.
You said she's 69?
She's almost 69.
Wow.
And so it's so funny because just hearing her talk about that is really, she spent so much of her life thinking that if I make it to 70, that'll be the milestone and that'll be it. And now I'm like,
crazy.
You're good. And her mom's 88, so that's kind of the weird thing. But again, I guess she lived kind of rough, so she was worried about that.
So it says here, the number of folks who make it past the age of 100 is expected to grow at a rate 20 times the total population by 2050.
That's crazy.
So, anyway, so there is a website you can go to, living100, living100.com. And so this article made me think about that. And so I went to it, and you answer a bunch of questions, and it calculates your life expectancy. Now, this is not highly accurate, I will tell you, because it didn't ask a lot of health questions. It asked about, do I have a family history of heart disease? No. Family history of cancer? No.
That's your height, your weight, diabetes,
yes,
your
like what do you eat?
Numbers.
How much carbs do you eat a week? How much junk food do you eat a week? Which I don't eat any hard. Well, I had some popcorn last night. But
got crazy.
Living large with the popcorn. But anyway, so mine came out. I'm going to live to 100. I'm 60. That's 40 years.
The best part was when you came in my office, you're like, I did Randy's, and he's going to be here till 100
Oh, my
too.
God. So Randy's family has heart disease, diabetes. His dad died of a heart attack. I put that in there. He's still going to live to 100. I can't beat this guy at anything. He beats me at everything I try to do. He beats me at board games, cards, the gym. He runs, even with all of his stuff, he beats me at every single thing. In fact, I've given up betting him on stuff because I lose every time, and I owed him like $1,000. And so we finally wiped the slate clean, and I'm not going to bet anymore. But he's going to be around. We're going to both be around for another 40 years.
Well, we thought maybe it was rigged that everybody came up with 100. So
Right.
I did mine, and mine was only 94.
How is this possible?
And so some of the questions, which I was trying to think of what would be different between
Yeah.
my answers and your answers, is it asked about sweets. And I have my ice cream problem. And I've limited it where I have just a little tiny cup, but it asked like once a week or twice a week. And I was
Right.
like, probably 3 to 4 times I have ice cream. So maybe that makes some difference. All that ice cream
I think
and dairy.
the carbs made a big. It seemed like the diet was the bigger factor than anything else. Diet and exercise was a big deal, but I think they should have asked more health questions. Randy should not live to 100. I mean, this should not be. I should have kicked his butt on this thing, and I didn't.
Well, and in that article we were talking about, what about the quality of life? Like if Randy lived to 100, what would the last 10 or 15 years of his life be like? He's already got some health issues, so
Right.
he might be completely deaf by then, and you
Oh my
have
God,
to like
he's
sign,
already
learn sign
can't
language.
hardly. He can't hardly hear.
Or you have to get a chalkboard and write everything out.
Yeah, maybe by then we'll have some fix for the hearing thing. He's got really horrible tinnitus to the point where you have to look him in the face and speak right to him. If you talk to the back of his head, he will not hear you. So, yeah, we deal with that.
You could win hearing tests. There's where you could win.
Oh, hey, I can
Although
beat
he
him.
passed that hearing test he went to.
What was that
That
about?
seems weird.
But anyways, so there was something else in this article at the very end.
Oh, about planning.
Yeah. The first key to stop worrying and stop working is to take action. So your homework assignment is this. Make a plan. Hit the uncertainty head on. The first thing any hopeful retiree should do is make sure your money will last through retirement, and that starts with estimating your lifespan. So go to livingto100.com, do the little quiz, and get a reality check. What if it's correct and you really are going to live to 100? What are you going to do?
And you're like that guy that wanted to spend all his money down at 80, and
Right.
you've got to pay for 20 more years of life.
Right.
Don't do that to yourself.
So I just...
You had a lady that was a client that had cancer that was going to spend all their money
Oh,
because
my
they were given like
gosh.
a few months to live.
Yeah, she had a liver disease, and so she wanted to spend all her money because a stupid doctor told her she was going to be dead in 2 years. And so she had a plan. She came to me with a plan of spending down all her money in 2 years because she was going to die. And I said, this is bad. You need a second opinion for starters. You need to research what they diagnosed you with for secondary. I mean, because I've heard of people healing this problem by changing your diet. Well, it's reversed. As of February, she came to see me. The whole disease is reversed. It is gone.
That is such
She
amazing.
is not
So amazing.
dying. And we believe it's a miracle. I mean, but she did make a bunch of life changes that were very positive. And I'm like, I'm glad you didn't spend all your money thinking you're going to be dead in 2 years. That is not a plan. That is not a plan at all.
Well, and then you think about how thankful you would be that you lived, and
Right.
then you don't have any money. That'd be horrible.
Oh, my
you make
gosh.
it through something that traumatic.
So, yeah, be careful. Come see us before you make dramatic life changes and think you're going to die and going to spend all your money and all that. I mean, I have a client that's a doctor. His wife is a nurse, and I told him about it, and he just put his head in his hands. He's like, why would anyone tell somebody that? You're going to be dead in 2 years, and there's no hope, there's no options, there's no treatment. What on earth? Get another opinion. Maybe the doctor was in a hurry. Maybe they're having a bad day. I mean, we've seen enough doctors that I've seen that kind of stuff where they just kind of blow you off because they're preoccupied or they're too busy or whatever, but I would not take one opinion and run with it at all anymore. We've been to so many doctors. But anyways, plan on
we were
living a long
talking
life.
about that earlier before the show started, and make sure you have somebody that can maybe help you, or you take really good notes when you go to the doctors.
Yeah.
We've seen so many instances where people, even when it is a couple, but maybe they're older, and one hears one thing and the other hears something else, and you get in the middle of that, and you're listening to him. No, he said this. No, he said that. Take, a notebook, write things down, take your phone and hit record. But
And I would
get
take
second opinions.
And make sure you have a list of all your medications in your wallet. Everything you take, so that wherever you go, if you end up in the ER for some reason, that they have a list of what you're taking, because the list that they're going to have in the computer from 10 years ago is not going to be accurate. And they may give you medication. I was talking to a nurse about this week who works at a hospital. I said, this is a massive problem because they look at the computer and they say, oh, these are the drugs you were taking the last time we saw you. Well, it probably completely just changed. And if you don't have a list, you can't even tell them.
Well, and if you're, half unconscious or you're in a lot of pain, and they're like, let's go through these medications one by one. You're not thinking rationally. You're not going to remember.
The names, you can't remember all the stuff. It's too complicated. So, yeah, make a list. That's a great thing to do on a stormy weekend. Get all your pills out and make a list and stick it in your wallet.
We've had so many fun ideas for everybody.
So
they need
exciting.
to go through their filing cabinet, get all their paperwork together, go through their pill list.
Oh, my goodness. We're just full of good information, aren't we?
Before we get into that one, just to finish with that article, the first thing was to make a plan and to pick your life expectancy. But then also look at how much do you need a month. When I'm doing financial planning, come see me. I'll be happy to help you with that. You need to figure out how much you're going to need in retirement. And like Sherri said, do you have your debt paid off? That's great. But if you don't, are you going to need some money for that to cover in your retirement? But you need to figure out how much you're going to need. And then do you have that? And are you saving? Are you on that road to saving? So then the second part of that plan would be to figure out how much you need to save each month to get to that goal.
And you've got to go to Social Security, SSA.gov, and get your projection. And you just you go to My Social Security. Once you go to the website, you create a username and a password. Write it down somewhere so that you won't forget
Very safe.
Yeah.
And then put it on the jump drive or in the safe.
There you go. And then get in there and get your statement so you can see when your full retirement age is, how much you would get if you wait till full retirement age. And if it's you and a spouse, you both need to do this, and you both need to look at it and make a plan of when you take that, because the longer you wait, the more you get. Especially if your spouse has not worked very much. That's a big deal.
But then come see us, because there's a lot of factors to consider when to take Social Security, because if you want to wait until you're 70 but you retire at 62 or 65 and you start depleting all of your savings account and all of your retirement accounts, it may not be the most beneficial thing to wait. So we can look at some numbers with you and figure out which is the better path, because, you're trying to get more from the government and win. But if you spend all your savings until you get to that 70, then you may not be winning.
Right. It's a balance. So, please come see us. Check out our website, retirerelax.com. Lots of special reports. Becca has a bunch of stuff about financial planning that
you can videos. You can learn to do it yourself if you want, if you don't want to come see me.
Great stuff. The life book is on there, fillable PDF. You can download it. You can print it. You can write on it. You can do whatever you want to do your estate plan this weekend. We just have all sorts of
budgeting tools. You can do a budget this weekend.
Oh, my goodness. This is going to be so fun. Thanks so much for listening, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Happy Father's Day.
The views expressed on this show should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities or services mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risk, including loss of principal invested. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. No strategy can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should only be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Securities are offered through Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated, member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services are offered through Rosenberg Financial Group, a registered investor advisor not affiliated with Royal Alliance Associates Incorporated. Offices are located at 2517 Moody Road, Warner Robins, and 4875 Riverside Drive, Suite 201 in Macon. Phone numbers are 922-8100 and 741-4457.